Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 49 of B-Road Ballers, the review series for Gran Turismo's selection of hot hatches, older and newer. And one of the good things about performance cars of a more mass production nature, such as sports sedans and hot hatches, is that some of them can be what we like to call sleeper cars. And sleeper cars, of course, are very popular vehicles in real life especially, because basically what a sleeper car is, for any who are unfamiliar, it's a vehicle which doesn't look as good as it actually is. Generally speaking, it's a car which looks completely normal, or at least very close to normal, maybe even borderline boring or even dull. But underneath that understated exterior, you actually have performance which can outrun, or at least match up to, vehicles which from the outside look far more flashy and showy. And so the natural appeal of a sleeper car is pretty self-apparent. Now this car, I would say, is kind of a sleeper car. Now it's not as much of a sleeper as, say, a Daihatsu Storia Cross 4 or a Lexus GS 300, but I do classify this car as kind of a sleeper nonetheless. Now it is technically a hot hatch, so some people will recognise its potential, but visually, to those who are unfamiliar with the car and what it's really capable of, it is a surprisingly good vehicle. Now the car in question is the Ford Focus ST170, and this is probably the least used version of the Ford Focus that's featured on Gran Turismo. You've got the rally car, the RS, the ST, the newer shape ST, and the ST170, so there is a pretty decent selection to choose from. The vast majority of people go for the newer shape ST. Then probably next to that in popularity is the RS, which is extremely impressive. Then possibly the older shape WRC car, or even the newer WRC car, and then somewhere down the line comes this one. This car, though, is far better than you'd actually think. I would actually say that this car is possibly better than the newer model ST. Not necessarily the 2013 shape, but better than, I believe it's the 2006-ish shape, the slightly older model ST, but the one that comes after this. Because that car is certainly powerful, and it is quick, but the handling isn't necessarily that amazing. This version, though, not only in the case of this car, but also the RS, really does have outstandingly good handling. And in real life, the handling and drivability of Fords has always been a good selling point of them, especially in their more mass production vehicles. Now, as far as spec, you get a 2-litre turbo engine from this car, 413 horsepower fully tuned, 284 foot-pounds of torque, and it only weighs 1,039 kilos. So it is significantly heavier than the RS, but then again, that's not really a fair comparison because the RS is extremely light, ridiculously lightweight in fact, for a hot hatch. So all things considered, this car's weight is actually very good. As far as horsepower per tonne, it puts out just under 400, and the maximum PP is 522. Now that may be a little bit too high, considering its straight line performance, but for handling, for drivability, for grip, and also for ease of use and its beginner-friendly nature, this car is fantastic, especially given how underestimated the car is and how easily overlooked it is. I don't recall ever seeing anyone use this car online. I'm sure there are people who do, but it's just not a hugely popular choice. Why choose this one when you can have the RS? That's the obvious question. Well, if you have the opportunity to choose one, obviously, yes, of course the RS is a quicker vehicle, but the RS has no understatement at all. For a start, everyone knows how good it is already. It also looks the part. This car is the anti-RS. It goes against everything about that car. It's completely understated. Nobody compared to the RS knows how good it is. And that, for some people, makes it a perfect choice. Now, as far as price, this car costs just under 33 grand. So it's pretty well priced. It's not the most expensive of hot hatches, not quite the cheapest either, but certainly not overly expensive either way. By far, the best aspect about the ST170 is the handling. It is mind-blowingly good, and I'm really happy to be able to say that, because for me personally, I actually find the newer Model ST and the latest Model ST that are featured on the game to actually be, to be honest, kind of underwhelming as far as handling. I know people absolutely love those cars, but I don't really understand why. Certainly they do look good and they're quick, but the handling is just not as good as this car. This is an amazing handling car in comparison. Even, to be honest, the Mini Cooper S, which I've reviewed before in this series, I would say has superior handling to either of the newer STs. They're not bad cars by any means, they're just, in my opinion at least, completely blown out of proportion by the vast majority of people who use it. This car, though, is completely under the radar. It's cheap, it's fast, and it's effective. Now, if you're looking for a big, showy, flashy, stunning looking hot hatch, this isn't the car for you, obviously. It doesn't look like much, it doesn't sound like much, it doesn't even have specs that you could particularly boast about. But if you're a sleeper fan, of course, and if you want a car that doesn't necessarily need to show off, it just gets the job done and wins races, then this is the perfect choice for you. So if by some chance you don't have the ST170 in your garage yet, and you are a fan of hot hatch racing, I would definitely recommend checking this car out. But that's it overall for this particular episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.